The Mary Celeste, the ghost ship, one voyage, 10 missing souls, and a mystery that refuses to sink. Here's the route we'll sail together. First, we'll meet the ship and her people and trace the voyage from New York toward Genoa. Then we'll step aboard with the Dei Gratia's crew and see exactly what they found or didn't find. From there, we'll weigh the leading theories, and finally, I'll share the explanation most experts now accept, and why even that leaves a door open. By the end, I think you'll agree this isn't just a maritime case, it's the perfect mystery. Here is the core of it in a single line. 10 people, a respected captain, his wife, his 2-year-old daughter, and 7 experienced sailors, vanished without leaving a trace. And yet the ship itself was fine. She wasn't wrecked, she wasn't sinking, she was simply empty. That is not how shipwrecks work, and it's not how disappearances work either. Hold on to that contradiction, because everything about this story lives inside it. Look at how compressed the mystery is. Just 3 dates carry the whole tragedy. She left New York on November 7, 1872, bound for Genoa with a routine cargo of industrial alcohol. The last log entry is dated November 25th, when she was near the Azores, and by December 4th, only 10 days later, she was found drifting and deserted. Whatever happened, it happened in a narrow window, and it left no warning. The man in charge matters, because this wasn't a reckless or inexperienced crew. Benjamin Briggs was a seasoned master mariner, deeply respected and famously cautious. He even brought his wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia aboard, which tells us he had no fear for the voyage's safety. 7 experienced sailors completed the crew. These were not people who would panic at a little rough weather, and that makes their disappearance even harder to explain. When the Dei Gratia's men finally boarded, they found a ghost. The Mary Celeste was under sail, but no one was at the wheel. The sails were slightly torn and the rigging a little loose, yet she was not in distress. Critically, the lifeboat was missing, which means people had left the ship somehow. The question is why they would ever abandon a vessel that was still floating perfectly well. These numbers are the heart of the puzzle. Over 1,700 barrels of cargo were intact, almost all of them. Only 9 were found empty, a small detail that would go on to fuel 100 theories. There was about 3 feet of water in the hold, annoying, but not enough to cause panic on any sound ship. And the final number is the one that matters most. 0 people were ever found, alive or dead. The scene inside the ship made it stranger still. The crew's personal belongings were untouched. Money, clothes, even the captain's papers, all left in place. There was plenty of food and fresh water aboard. Enough for months. Whoever left did not stop to pack, did not loot, and did not prepare for a long journey. It looks less like an evacuation and more like everyone simply stepped away. So now we arrive at the mystery itself. There are no bodies, no blood, no sign of a struggle, and no distress call. A fully provisioned seaworthy ship with its cargo intact was simply emptied of its people. That combination, every normal explanation ruled out at once, is precisely why this story has haunted us for a century and a half. Let's hold the 2 halves of the contradiction side by side. On one side, everything that was normal. The ship was sound, the cargo intact, the provisions ample. She could have sailed on for weeks. On the other, everything impossible. All 10 people gone, the lifeboat missing, and a log that stops 10 days before anyone found her. Any theory that survives has to explain both columns at the same time. People love the mutiny theory, and fiction loves it even more. The idea is that the crew drank the cargo of industrial alcohol, went mad, killed the captain and his family, and fled. But the alcohol aboard was denatured, essentially undrinkable poison. And if there had been violence, there would be signs. Blood, broken furniture, a struggle. There was none. A mutiny that leaves a perfectly intact ship and no trace simply does not hold. Others suspected fraud or piracy, that the captain conspired with the Dei Gratia to fake a disaster and split the insurance money. But the evidence refused to cooperate. Nothing was stolen, the valuable cargo was left behind, and the Dei Gratia's crew received only a partial salvage payment, far less than a full fraud would have yielded. If this was a crime, it was a remarkably unprofitable one. Now let's step back from the wilder theories and look at what investigators actually settled on. The pump on the Mary Celeste was faulty, and the hold had more than 3 feet of water. Not dangerous, but Captain Briggs may not have known that. He was an experienced mariner, and to him, rising water plus a dangerous cargo of alcohol could only mean one thing: the ship was failing. So he gave the order to abandon ship. Most historians believe the lifeboat was then overwhelmed by rough seas and all 10 people drowned. It's the most accepted explanation: a rational captain, a broken pump, and a fatal miscalculation. And this is why, a century and a half later, we're still talking about it. No wreckage, no bodies, no confession, just a seaworthy ship, a missing lifeboat, and a silence the Atlantic never broke. The Mary Celeste has been called the greatest maritime mystery of all time. It isn't the most tragic shipwreck, or the most valuable cargo, or the biggest loss of life. It endures because it's a perfect void. Every answer fits the facts just enough, and none of them fits completely. That is what keeps the story alive. Let's close on the image that started it all: an empty ship, sails still set, gliding over a calm sea with no one at the wheel. More than a century and a half later, the Mary Celeste still hasn't given up her secret. We've walked through the voyage, the discovery, and the theories, and each one leaves a loose thread. So here's my challenge to you. Don't settle for the neat answer. The best mysteries aren't solved, they're reopened. Keep the question alive. Some seas keep their secrets, and that's exactly why we keep sailing back to them.